Hi, everyone. This is Dianne Devitt. Welcome back to the continuing series of This is a Stick-Up, where we interview industry leaders and luminaries in the meetings and events industry. We're continuing our discussion and conversation with Steve Pastor, who is the founder and creator of Alpine Creative Group. Steve, there's, in these interviews, there's so much that you learn about people, but one of the things that Steve and I both share right now is that we're involved with ILEA, which is the International Live Events Association. Steve, past president, ambassador at large, and I'm the current president of the chapter. But Steve, you also were vetted into the BizBash Hall of Fame last year, wasn't it?
Yes,
so
that's correct.
How did that feel?
Well, if you get old enough, you get awards.
And you're not dead, right?
Yeah.
You live long enough, give them an award.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But that was quite an honor.
It was nice.
It was a nice honor to be recognized by your industry.
Yes,
you know,
it is.
that was our for us, by us, right?
Yes, correct.
And I know you also won an award that you you were part of an event with Michael Cerbelli, and wasn't that that was an ILEA award? Help me with that one, because I know
I need Michael to help me with that one. He told me I won the award, but I've never seen it.
All right, well, Michael
it was like best invitation or invitation.
All right, so best invitation
design or something like that.
All right, so
yes,
Michael owes us a call to clarify that.
Yeah.
But first of all, you want to say anything about ILEA? Because I know you were the one who really encouraged me to take the presidency. And, but tell everybody a little bit about it. I think it would help.
All right. Well, to talk about ILEA, I have to first mention the special event industry. So
correct.
The special event industry did not exist when I started our business. Alpine was founded in 1987. There was no such thing as a special event industry.
You're absolutely right. I think, what did it do? I think we just celebrated our 30th year.
Something like that.
Something
so
like
when
that.
we
it was
first
just
started,
at the beginning, right?
When we first started, there was one magazine that was just starting out that was, I think that was Agenda. Okay, aside from Agenda, BizBash had not been formed yet. There was nothing. There were no industry associations. They did not exist.
We were party planners.
Yes. Well, not even.
Actually, weren't even party planners.
Not even that. So the best story that I can give, and I'll keep this short, was the first major wedding invitation that we had ever done was for Eddie Murphy. And because it was also the first major event we did, we wanted to find somebody to assist us. So at that time, we didn't know anybody. We were in a vacuum. We literally were in a bubble. So I looked up, because there was no internet, there was no special event industry.
Correct.
I looked up in the yellow pages to try to find
And you couldn't find me?
Well, this is what happened, okay? So at that time, everyone had a listing in the yellow pages. So my partner, a very nice woman who is still with me all of these years, sees me in the with the yellow pages in front of me, and I'm looking at page after page of ads for escorts, okay? And she says, "My goodness, what are you doing?" And I said, "I'm trying to get to the end of this section to find somewhere that says events, okay? And and literally after 40 pages of these full-page, full-color ads for escorts, there was maybe a listing of 5 people that said event planners. No ads, single line type.
That's interesting.
Nothing in red, nothing in white, nothing in bold, and you were not in there. Okay, I can tell you that for sure. We found this woman on the Upper East Side who we never heard of. We didn't know any of these people. She came in, we interviewed her, she was hired, and then we wound up firing her. She was awful. So my partner basically became the event planner with absolutely no idea of what to do. And I have to tell you that all of these years later, the other thing is we didn't charge a fee for event planning.
My gosh.
We didn't know that event planners
was a business.
It was a business.
It
we
was
didn't
so
know
much
that it
fun.
charged a fee. Yes.
Wow.
So that's literally how we started.
Oh, Steve, that is fabulous.
And that was actually the beginning of Alpine, and also around the same time that the industry, as it was, started to coalesce. And the way it coalesced, I was one nexus, but people would call me up and say, "Who are you?" things like that, because I was in, it was published in the New York Times. At that time, it was the biggest wedding of the year.
I was just going to say, so just take a step back, like, with the events industry, because there's two things going on here. So yes, the special events industry, but before that, you had a printing company. Was it always invitations, or was it like printing? I know you're a lot more than invitations. You're more marketing, but tell us just how you got started with that.
Well, I had a printing company that was just selling commodity products, and it was right after a recession, and I saw that it wasn't going to make it. So I decided that we needed to find a product that would separate ourselves, that would be more design-driven than product-driven. And in order to do that, it was a cart before the horse. Do we get the business, or do we hire a designer? So we started first by finding work, as difficult as it might be, and then hiring designers to work freelance for us. And eventually we took the plunge and hired one full-time designer, and then it got up to 2, and it got up to 3, and then, right now we have 4 designers working for us, which is basically the size of a small design agency in and of itself. So, that's where that all started.
Oh, I didn't realize that. And did you always focus, did you have one business sector or vertical that you were focused on, or you were all like always social, corporate, as we know today?
I had two, really, because when I came out of business school, I had a lot of connections in finance. So we were the graphic design firm for a gentleman named Julian Robertson, who owned Tiger Management, which was the first of the major hedge funds.
Yes.
And from Tiger Management, we got the spin-offs of a lot of the people that had worked for him that wound up opening up their own hedge funds or financial firms. We wound up from that having a whole line of people from, we did George Soros's wedding invitations, Jamie Dimon's daughter's wedding invitations. We worked with a lot of the financial firms. We did the 50th birthday invitations for Stephen Schwartzman from Blackstone. So we had that as one connection. And then from our original association in entertainment through Whitney Houston. We were Whitney Houston's graphic design firm. Whitney introduced us to Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy introduced us to Chris Rock. Chris Rock introduced us to Dave Chappelle. And from that, we had a line of people in entertainment. We had a line of people in finance, and everything built from there.
So we need to give you a new title, like celebrity marketing agency.
Well, I once did I once did a talk on how to do business in the celebrity market, and the thing is that you sign so many NDAs that you really can't show the work that you've done. You can talk about it sometimes years after the fact, but it's very rare that you can actually show the product.
Even the work that we've done, and we've done some beautiful work over the years. I mean, one of my clients, major hotel chain, they actually used to frame your invitations. I don't know if you knew that.
No, I did not know that.
For this,
I didn't charge for that.
No, you didn't. I didn't either. But for the 7 years or 8 years that we did the major events for them, they actually had a what we would know as like an LED wall, but only it was just like a collage of all the invitations, how beautiful they were. And I do want to get into that, because part of this interview is educating people on the value of an invitation. I'm the biggest fan, and to me there isn't any replacement. Just like there's no replacement for face-to-face communication, to me there isn't any replacement for that hard invitation coming in the mail. But let's just talk about like that timeline from what you've seen through the years. Like where did it go from graphic design to mail to, and we were talking a little bit about when the attack came. How did that affect your business, and what changed with invitations? When did they become acceptable to be electronic?
Well, I think those are a couple of different timelines there. But after 9/11, the business, we almost went out of business at that time. I'm not embarrassed to say so.
A lot of us almost went out of business.
Yeah, so we had a very short period of time after 9/11 where you had to mail everything in a vellum envelope, in a clear envelope, because of the anthrax scare. But that basically went away within a short-term period of time. We were very nervous with the change in technology to e-vites, that was something that could severely affect us. Now I embrace e-vites because they're used not necessarily as a primary invitation, but they're used as a as a secondary, because
part of that integrated marketing program. Like you send an e-vite to get them that way, but then the hard invitation, the direct mail piece is totally different.
Well, I even had a technology company that came to me recently, also with an NDA, and they said, we want to do something with a zero environmental footprint, and we want to do just e-vites. And I said, well, you have several problems with that. And I said, one of them is, you probably don't have everyone's emails that you want to send it to, but you do have their addresses. So even if you could, send it to their emails, you don't have their emails, and there's not a central database that you can get them from. I said, so that's one issue. The second is that when you send out an e-vite, quite often, if they don't recognize the sender, it goes into spam.
Exactly.
They never see it.
Right.
And the third is that it's not quite as impactful because people don't print it out. So you need it as basically a companion piece. But the other thing that's great about e-vites right now is that the advent of the technology of them allows us now to do animation, and people love animated e-vites. So we're doing one with doors opening and closing, and we're doing, some really cool stuff with, a vineyard with the wind kind of blowing the vines and stuff like that. Yep. So it's really kind of fun. But we originally thought that e-vites would kill us, and it didn't. And as an example of that, Paperless Post was one of the companies that opened up, and I said, oh boy, this is the end of me. And now Paperless Post is selling paper invitations. So they have a name that's paperless, but they couldn't survive on paperless. They have a line through other stationers that they're selling hard copy invitations, and maybe that was part of their business model, but I think not, because if so, why would they call themselves paperless?
Well, but the thing is, you bring up a really good point again, that much of my work is in the sensory communication area and the research I've been doing, and there is such an impact when you touch something and you feel something. It is embedded in your brain. It's a neuroscience reaction, basically. And I think what many people don't realize is that, and I encourage everyone to work with you and go into your showroom, because when you see the different invitation styles, the textures, the materials that they're made on. I mean, I remember the first time I walked into your showroom, Steve, and I just, as a designer, I didn't know where to look first. And I remember choosing something that was paper from India. So your sources come from everywhere.
Yes, but the thing is, I don't think we're for everyone. I think we're for people that have a passion for print. Not everyone does. So if people have a passion for fine print and for stationery, then we are the right person for them, because we are the only invitation company that actually makes our own product. Everyone else is a broker. So we are the only showroom you can walk into where my factory is in the basement. Everyone else is buying from someone else. So you can smell the ink, you can see the print production as it takes place. Some people don't care about that, but for the people that do, I'm the only source that could provide that service.
You're the real deal, and I've been in your production area. I mean, don't you have one machine that goes back to like 1920 or something?
Oh, you have a good memory. It actually goes back to the year the Titanic sank. Can I put you on the spot? Do you know what year that is?
No, I don't remember.
Wow,
that. I don't remember.
1912.
1912.
Okay. So that's my oldest press.
That was the movie. I knew it was a 2 in there. Okay. 1912?
Yeah, so a lot of the machines we have stopped being made in the 1950s. They thought, the phraseology from the last election about make America great again. Well, you have to make the factories in order to make the products. And I have letter presses by Heidelberg that stopped being made in the 1950s. My engraving presses that I have two of stopped being made in the 1930s. So it's not as if you can just go out there and buy them. It's basically like buying a car in Cuba and learning how to retrofit it to make it work with current moving parts.
But that's also what gives the product such an elegant, finished, distinct look.
Yes.
And just to your point, for the discriminating client who actually looks, and I'm one of them, who values an invitation as an integral part of an event because it's your first impression, it sets expectations, it it actually becomes the theme. Steve, I'm grateful that you are in the business you are in, because you've really pioneered and heightened the awareness for so many people. They don't realize that invitations don't always come in an envelope. They come in boxes. They come in tubes. They come in all sorts of things.
Constantly recreating how they can be made.
What is the best advice you ever received in business from anyone? Can you think of that?
I don't know that I received any advice that stays with me, but the best advice that I can impart to people is that as you go on with your career, that networking is an absolute key. That you always, whether it's LinkedIn, in-person events, meeting people for lunch, meeting people for dinner, that from a very young age, from the time that you have your first internship, is an absolute key. And the other part to that also is that you never, it's a colloquial expression, never piss anybody off. Because the thing is that the people you meet on the way up may be the people that you're meeting on the way down. And you never know under what social situation or business situation you're going to meet that other person again. So always try to leave things, at a good level. If there is an issue, try to work it out and try not to make any enemies.
And I know you live by that, because I know you, and so I know all the elements that are involved with your business, and I really appreciate that, because I know it's not an easy business, and I know we could do a whole section on the post office, because I love your stories with that. But Steve, thank you for sharing with us your background, your history, the importance, the impression with it all, and you're right, networking. So everyone, Steve Pastor leaves us with things to think about, is the power of the invitation and how it makes people feel important and special, but also the value of networking and the return that you get from meeting face to face and connecting with people. So thank you for connecting with people, Steve.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. This is Dianne Devitt. Take care.